You're welcome. You're welcome with Chael Sonnen.
All right, we have Jay Gimmick Anderson on. Now, Chael, if you remember where Baby started from, Baby started from Gimmick Anderson, and I stole it from him the day I went postal on you about 4 months ago. Now, he is one of the biggest insiders in the WWE, and I asked him to call in to say what is going on with the heavyweight division in both WWE Raw and SmackDown, and what are we looking at for WrestleMania?
And I'd like to add that the Godfather has been on the run from Gimmick Anderson ever since he stole Baby. He's been hard on the run, man. I've been hot on his trail.
Baby, that's right, Baby. So on the SmackDown side of things, I guess I'll start with that just because that's the one that's kind of got me all hot and bothered right now. I don't know if you guys saw the Randy Orton deal last night, but Randy Orton has been slow burning a turn on Bray Wyatt for a while. This started back when the Wyatt family was beating up on Orton, and Orton kind of did a deal where he said, if you can't beat him, join him. So he's been kind of an oddball in there, but it's been working, and he slowly just kind of dismantled the Wyatt family, driven a wedge between Bray and Luke. And every time that Bray and Randy are on camera, Bray seems to stand in front of him. And Randy is kind of standing behind him, and Bray's cutting one of those long, winding, howling promos. And Randy, every time they're on camera, will just do a little something. He would just do a little something. He'd just eyeball Bray in such a way, or he'd look at his title, or he'd kind of sneer at him. They've been slow burning this thing, and last night it finally paid off when Randy Orton set the Wyatt family, or basically the Wyatt compound, on fire and burned Sister Abigail to eternal damnation, which is pretty fine work. You just don't see storylines like that anymore. From WWE, these long and slow burn storylines. I'm a big fan of that.
So what are they doing that for, though? What is the payoff here? I've got to assume WrestleMania, or are those guys already booked up?
Yeah, so they done the thing where Randy had won the Royal Rumble, okay? And so Orton did the thing where he denied himself the title shot a couple of weeks ago, and said that he wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to turn on Bray, and then they let Luke Harper and AJ Styles fight for that slot. So I think the idea is that Randy is taking his spot back at WrestleMania, and that gives AJ Styles something to do, because they're going to have to rip the carpet out from under AJ Styles. And the rumor is, and I'm not a big fan of this, but the rumor is that it's going to be Shane McMahon and AJ Styles at WrestleMania as well. So Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton is the big SmackDown match at WrestleMania that everybody's kind of got their eye on.
All right. Well, I will tell you, you called that last week, and I missed the Raw this week. So way to be all over that. So what else do you got down in the WWE land? What's going on? What should we expect?
Okay, so you got Owens and Goldberg coming up. I don't see how you have Goldberg lay out Brock Lesnar twice and not have him totally squash Kevin Owens. Now, I'm one of those guys. I'm kind of old school, and I like the guys that hang around every week. I feel like the guys like Ambrose and Owens and AJ Styles are kind of the MVPs, and here come these stars at WrestleMania time, the stars of yesteryear coming in and lapping up the spoils. But I believe that they're going to have Goldberg go over there, and it's going to be Goldberg and Lesnar for the title. Now, I would be surprised if Goldberg didn't catch a beatdown from Lesnar after that thing at Fastlane. But I think that that's the biggest match that you can put on the top of the bill. The only thing is, I don't think the match is going to deliver, if you let them go any length of time. Brock has his style of working that works for him, but he's got to be able to beat that ass for 15 minutes. And I don't know that Goldberg could keep up taking an ass whipping for 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I feel like that's the direction they're going to go. And as far as Owens, he's got a thing with Jericho. They did a pretty nice little slow turn with Jericho and Owens too. And I feel like that doesn't have to have the title. It would be better if it did, but don't forget
Jericho's the United States champion. So that gives them a little prize to go through. But, I'm kind of with you guys. You don't have to have a title. As long as I'm invested in the story, I'm good. You don't have to have that belt.
Chael said the same thing about the Goldberg thing. If you're gonna have him go up against Owens, you put the strap on him. My only question is, we all believe Goldberg's got one coming. Brock's laid out for him twice. Goldberg's got one coming at WrestleMania. If you put the strap on Brock's not going to work that kind of schedule.
No, he's not. And there's a rumor out there that Goldberg has signed a little bit of an extension with WWE and is going to keep him on TV. But I don't think you do that. I think Goldberg is one of those acts that he's going to come in. People will pop for him for so long, but then that's going to wear off and he's going to turn into a joke. These hardcore, these dudes that are living in their mama's basement, working the internet smarks, I like to call them. They like to ride guys to the top and jump off the bandwagon. Chael, you were talking about Enzo and Big Cass, how big of a pop they got, and how Enzo is working this East Coast gimmick, and he's just spitting fire on the mic, and people love him. Well, they're riding to the top, and just recently, all the internet guys have started jumping off the damn bandwagon. Sheamus laid him out with a brogue kick in L.A. the other day, and he was getting "thank you, Sheamus" chants for laying out Enzo Amore. So it's like, you can't keep these sumbitches happy. The only people that enjoy wrestling the way that it's supposed to be enjoyed is guys like me and you and kids. That's the only people that enjoy wrestling the way it's supposed to be enjoyed.
Yeah, so tell me this about WrestleMania, Gimmick. You said something interesting there. I mean, look, the whole thing is Lesnar and Goldberg, but you said that Shane is supposed to wrestle who? AJ Styles?
Yes.
And what's the storyline there?
Well, I think the storyline there, if you've been following, I don't know how closely, but the storyline is AJ Styles has been, you can make an argument for one of two people dragging SmackDown. It's AJ Styles or Dean Ambrose. They're 1 and 1A. AJ Styles has been kicking ass and taking names for the last year, and he was the champ, and then he lost his championship in an elimination chamber to John Cena. He's hot about that because he's been pulling the wagon for a year, and he's not getting his come up. He's not getting his respect. And it's almost that Shane and Daniel Bryan have almost even gone heel, making AJ jump through all these hoops, and they're fixing to pull the carpet out from under him again. Now, I don't know why you have a guy. I don't know why you have to have a thoroughbred like AJ Styles working with Shane McMahon unless you're going to do some kind of stunt. The only reason they brought in Shane McMahon last year is because they needed a little star power because all their guys were hurt. All you had was Roman and Triple H, and you had Lesnar and Ambrose, and that's all the hell you had. So they had to bring somebody with some star power in to wrestle Undertaker. They don't have that problem this year.
Yeah.
Everybody's healthy except for Seth Rollins.
And Gimmick, I'll add to this. I was there. I was in Dallas. I watched that. But Shane's also crazy, right? He's a team player. He climbs up to the top of the cage and jumps off, lands on the table. It was this big moment. But, that's kind of what Shane is known for. He's a team player that goes out and takes some big bump one time a year. So what kind of thing could he do with AJ Styles? I mean, those two are just going to go wrestle? That doesn't make any kind of sense. There's got to be some kind of gimmick on it, right?
Oh, yeah. It'd have to be a street fight or something like that. I don't think they'd do a Hell in a Cell again. Have to be a street fight or a ladder match, and I just don't see the dang point, You got to have AJ out there. AJ Styles is the perfect time or the perfect guy to work with, like a Samoa Joe or a Nakamura, somebody that's going to have a 5-star match with him. You're wasting AJ Styles if you're putting him in there with Shane McMahon. I love Shane McMahon. He's fantastic, but he is not going to have a nice, 30-minute tit-for-tat, Savage and Steamboat wrestling match with you. He has to have a gimmick. He has to have a table to go through. He has to have something high to jump off of, and all that's fine and good, but you don't need to waste AJ Styles with that.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's the other thing with the Shane matches is there's really no question on how it's going to end. You just simply can't put him over. and he's not arrogant enough like the rest of the family that he would demand that he needs to go over. He's happy to put somebody over, do whatever's best for business. He's a hell of a worker. He's a hell of a good athlete. But it is a little bit weird. You know, when the guy comes in one time a year and then pushes one of your stars to the brink, man, that's tough. That's tough for me. I get the business. I like it. I look forward to Shane's matches, but it's still a little bit tough. It's like, man, I can only suspend reality so far. Okay, if this is a regular sport and somebody does 300 matches a year and I do none, I'm not beating that guy. If somebody's working the road and training every single day in any regular sport, and I've done 2 matches in the last 7 years, I'm not beating that guy. And so, you know, that was a little bit hard for me as tit for tat as Shane went with The Undertaker. He did the right thing on the end. He had the big spot, and he put the guy over. But it was still a little bit more competitive than it should have been. If you're telling me that Brock Lesnar, a UFC champion, could get squashed by a weirdo, you know, in 30 seconds, it's tough, man. At some point, it's got to look like a fight. It has to look like two guys that are offering resistance to one another, trying to get a pinfall or a submission, like the olden day. That's what wrestling is. It's not just entertainment. It's also got to be somewhere that I can suspend reality and buy in. And some of its level of ridiculousness is a little bit far from me. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree, and I think most of the people that are watching this stuff agree with you and I. Okay, if you kind of look at it, the flip flop and fly in finish is going away. People aren't buying into that kind of stuff anymore. Now the indie guys will. The guys that are watching these dudes doing double and triple Frankensteiners and bingo halls. But if you notice, like the guys with the over finishers now are the guys that are, you know, the stuff that would work in a real fight. You know, the phenomenal forearm is way over. You know, I'm kind of with you. You've got to have a certain level of realism to this stuff in order for us to buy into it. And I'll tell you, they're on the brink of bringing this thing back. They went through a dark period there where they're top heavy. They're building stars now, man. They're 4 or 5 deep on each show with a big star. You know, on the Raw side, you got Reigns. People have jumped off the bandwagon with him a couple of times, but he's still a big star. You got Owens, you got Jericho. They're building these rosters. It's almost back as thick as it was in the late 90s when I was watching it as a kid. It's like, damn, you know. They're really building this back up, and I think that stuff like Shane McMahon going tit for tat with The Undertaker, to your point, is sort of a step back, to be honest. I don't know if you remember Shawn Michaels a few years back, or several years back, worked with Vince McMahon and had a tit for tat match with Vince McMahon. Shawn Michaels is the best damn wrestler on the planet. Why is he not kicking Vince McMahon's ass in 3 minutes? You know?
Yeah, and there's some guys that can break those rules and get away with it. And, of course, the McMahon family qualifies for that, particularly when you've got the oddity of them going out there. If you ever want to be able to run Shane out ever again, he can't get squashed on Saturday, and then 3 years later we're supposed to make believe that he got better. They've got to be good competitive matches. So I do get some of that storyline, but I do stand by my point, man. This has to look like two guys that are offering resistance, and when you see some of this stuff where you've got these high flyers, and I realize how big that is in Japan and how big it is in Mexico, I also realize how goddamn small those arenas are. So even though that does entice and bring 200 people to their feet, it's not great for business, and that's what I'm speaking to. Hey, Anderson, I'm seeing this all the way down to promos. Guys will come out with a scripted promo. One guy goes off script a little bit, and the other guy doesn't know how to respond. If two guys are doing a promo, look, if you say to me, hey, Chael, I'm going to slap your wife, and I'm going to pin you 1, 2, 3. And I said, well, you're not going to pin me 1, 2, 3. Listen, in real life, I've got to weigh in on the other thing that you said, that you're going to slap my wife. I have to weigh in on that. I see guys do these promos. One guy gets a little bit off from where the other guy was agreed to do in the back, and he doesn't respond to it. It's like, look, this still has to look like real life. That's what is driving wrestling. And when you get 90% of the guys that don't do it and 10% that do, it's the 10% that do, even though they're the minority, they're the ones that are still selling the tickets. They're the ones that are pushing the industry forward. And the rest of the guys have got to catch on, from the promos to the in-ring work. It still needs to look like conflict.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, speaking of wives, now I'm down here in the Dirty W. I've just taken the Queen out for a seafood lunch. You and I have a lot in common, Jill, and I don't know if you know that. We're both married to hot blondes named Brittany. So I know that you're a good man just from that. Now, I want to turn the tables on you a little bit. I want to ask you about this Khabib and Tony Ferguson thing.
All right.
That seems like the nastiest freaking match in months to me right there. I was watching the countdown show and got so fired up. I want to know. I want to know what you think happens in that.
Look,
fight.
It's not to say that Khabib cannot deal with adversity, but it is a fair assessment to say he's never been faced with adversity. Khabib Nurmagomedov has ran through. No one even close. Ran through every single piece of competition he's had, including Rafael dos Anjos before Rafael was the world champion. So people, that was kind of like a fine wine where that fight looked better over time. Nobody really appreciated it at the time Khabib did it. But once Rafael went on his big run all the way to the strap, that's when you look back and go, oh my goodness, this Nurmagomedov's a real deal. And that also coincided with the time that Khabib got hurt and was on the shelf for 20 months, so never really got his chance. I guess the point I'm trying to make is Ferguson is the toughest fight Khabib has ever had. If Ferguson, first off, can get to him, can kick him, can touch him, can threaten some submissions, can stay alive in there, let's see what that does to Khabib. And the other thing is, can Ferguson do that? Ferguson is going to get taken down at some point. He's going to get pressured and he's going to get pounded. But Ferguson is tough as old salami. So when he doesn't go away and he gets back up and gets in Khabib's face, and this is a 5-round contest. Khabib's also never been in that situation. So I think there's a couple of questions there that are not foregone conclusions. This is Khabib's toughest fight. This is a more well-rounded fighter. This is a guy with 5-round experience that's hungry and that wants it and has a shot at Conor on the line, which will be a life-changing payday. Different kind of motivation. Khabib will experience that same motivation. But how will he deal with the adversity? And then the bigger question, when I want to bring up the word adversity, I'm hypothesizing that Ferguson can offer him more resistance than other guys have. So I really don't know. Ferguson is the real deal. He's the more complete fighter, but there's still something to be said for somebody with one dimension that does that dimension better than the next guy.
I hear you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it seems like you're kind of more on the Ferguson side of things.
Well, you know what? No, you did it. I kind of made it sound like that. I actually think that Khabib has the major advantage, but there is some questions there that Khabib's going to have to answer. Ferguson is a lot like Conor McGregor. He's going to stay on you. He's going to keep a good pace. Not a great wrestler, but great everywhere else. Great with the punching, great with the kicking, great with the defense, dog tough. He's hungry and he wants it. It's a very similar fight. If Khabib can run through Tony, Khabib can run through Conor. But we still have to see the fight. Goodness. This is a really, really hard fight.
All right, Gimmick. You got anything to close up? We got to get over to the weigh-ins.
I'm with you, brother. Thank y'all so much.
Anderson, you're a good man. Talk to you.
All right, thanks, Gimmick. There's the guy that I stole baby from.
How did you meet him? He's a damn good guest. He's the kind of guy, like when I listen to Jim Rome's show, which I just think is the number one show in the history of sports talk shows, that's the kind of guy that would make it in the jungle. That's the kind of guy that wouldn't have to call the 800 number. Jim would give him a direct line. He can get on anytime he wants. Look, he's intelligent. He's well-spoken. He's got great energy, and he knows his stuff. He shows up with some confidence and something to say. That is a great get for a random guy. That is the top of the food chain right there.
We're all random, baby.